One of the most important things when it comes to health is how we deal with stress and what stress we undergo. Stress is a really big thing. I want you to imagine, even as you go through your daily life, when you wake up in the morning, you go to move. When you go to move, you then go downstairs, you may get something to eat, you may go outside. You may then drive to work, you may walk to work. When you get there, you meet certain people. Every single time when you go through life, your body's engaging in particular activities. Now, what many people don't realize is when we're actually doing those daily activities, all of those are stressful to our nervous system. When you get up in the morning, you've got to move. Movement is stressful because you have to change your body in order to complete a task. Stress is the change to a system that your body has to adapt to. If we look at an example of when you're eating food, when you eat food, you've got to chew, you've got to create particular enzymes, saliva. The food's then got to pass down into your stomach's then got to grind that food up. All of this is stressing your system. But then when we look at stress, why is it that some stress is far too much for us? And that's what we're going to go through in this video. So when we're looking at stress, there's three main types of stresses that we typically engage in daily life. Those are mental stress, physical stress, and chemical stress. Ignore the writing, I haven't got a pen. So when we're looking at these three types of stresses, every single day, you have to adapt to them in some sort of way. When we're looking at stresses, you've got these three kinds. Now, if we give some examples, mental stress, for example, is socializing. When you socialize, you have to engage with a person in a particular way, mentally. That's a stressor. Now, that doesn't mean that socializing is either good or bad. At this moment, it's just a stress. Now, when we're looking at physical stress, for example, lifting. For example, if you sit down at a desk all day, sitting down, especially for prolonged periods of time, if you don't hold yourself well. Chemical stress, this can be air pollution, whether that's car fumes, whether that's fragrances. These are just some examples of stress. Now, I'm sure we can agree, all of these, just even to some extent, are normal. Like, socializing is normal, it's not a bad thing. Lifting and sitting down is normal, we should be able to do these things. When we're looking at stress, it's really important for you to understand that some stresses impact us different than others. The reason why I'm exploring the different types of stress is because when we understand that a nervous system or a body that is experiencing trauma or is less healthy or function optimally, that can only happen when stress turns into trauma. When your body cannot deal with the stress that we put it under, whether it's a mental, physical, chemical stress, the body then almost reduces in capacity. If you feel you've got 100% battery life, and then you use that phone, you continue to stress the phone, but you don't charge it up, or the phone software isn't ready for all of that load that you're going to put it under. I'm not a computer man, bear with. That then means that the computer cannot deal with it hasn't got the processing power to deal with what you're asking it to do. Therefore, using that computer is not going to be as good. In the context of your health, the first thing then that we need to look at is this. I'm going to lose space. Adaptation. Now, what do I mean by adaptation? Adaptation is your ability to deal with stress. Have you ever seen some people who feel it seems like they've got 100 things going on at the same time, but they still seem to be managing it okay? Whereas you see other people where even a few things just seem to tip them over the edge, whether that's lifting one small object off of the floor, all of a sudden you're injured, you feel pain. Or just that one extra job or that one comment from a friend tips you over the edge mentally. That's not necessarily because that thing, that stressor, overdid it for you. That stressor was too much for you to handle. But if your processing power and your computer, if your battery life is really low, then you try to ask your nervous system, your computer or phone to deal with something too much for it, what's going to happen? It's not going to work as well. And that's when we get to a state where your nervous system isn't dealing with life optimally. And if it's not dealing with life optimally, you leave yourself susceptible to experiencing health problems. And that's why talking about stress is really important. Because if we are unable to adapt to life stress, we then have to do one of two things. Either reduce the things we want to do in life. Actually, let me write this down. So it's why we have to do one of two things. Reduce how we live our life. That means you don't do the activities you like as consistently as you like. You leave yourself susceptible to potential symptoms that you don't want to experience. Either way, between two of these things, you've got to change life. You've got to change what's going on around you, rather than being able to be comfortable and trust that your nervous system and your health can withstand that, manage that, and thrive under that. Because at the end of the day, two people can undergo the same stress and have completely different experiences of health. Two people can be in a similar environment, with a similar background, with similar daily stresses, but one person could be thriving, vital, feeling good, while someone else could be experiencing a myriad of health challenges. And that's not to say that symptoms are bad, but they should not be chronic. If they're chronic, long-standing over time, then there's something going on. Your body's either trying to tell you something, or your nervous system's quite literally dealing with a stressor that you're not willing to withstand. So then when we're looking at all these different types of stresses here, the mental, the physical, the chemical stress, and how that could lead to overwhelm for weeks, months, years, anxiety, nervousness for that period of time, lead to not being physically active for ages, but now it's just become your normal. What you may not realize, or what many of our practice members when they come here don't realize, is that you're not going to be told, take away all those different things. It may be worthwhile being mindful of it whilst you're going through the nervous system and healing recovery. But the inevitable aim is to increase your body's ability to adapt to life. That's the first and foremost focus. Because if we improve your natural ability to adapt and deal, manage and thrive under stress, then you're going to be able to trust your body and what you can put through, because you, when you go through life, cannot predict the environment every minute of the day. Which means that you can't artificially prep your life that way. So by improving your own ability to adapt to stress, by having a more resilient, having a stronger nervous system, you then have more trust. Your computer, your processing power is stronger, so you can deal with more tasks. And this is where you feel more vital, more energized. You have less symptomatic expressions of pathology, of particular disease processes, because your body's healing properly, you're adapting to stress, and then you're thriving in life. But this doesn't happen if we take the approach that it's stress first. If you go stress first, you may have to dwindle down all of the things you do in life just to give your body a chance to recover and recuperate. And that is an approach you could use, But if you're in a position where your system is so poorly adapting and not thriving properly, you may have to reduce your experience of stress in life so low that you can't exercise as much. You've got to be super neurotic with what you're eating. You've got to take away all the chemicals in your environment, which isn't a bad thing, but you've got to reduce all of those things down to the extent that, okay, now your nervous system's in a position where it can recover. However, if we take a you first approach, your nervous system approach, your battery, improve your processing power, then you could experience recovery, health, and improvement even in spite of life stress. Because again, there are people that are putting their bodies are going through the same stress as you, their nervous systems, their life is going through the same or similar stress to you, but they don't have as many symptomatic expressions of problems. They don't have as many problems or experience as many. We want to empower and improve your natural ability to adapt and handle stress. Because if you can experience that improved processing power in your body, you will see greater confidence, you'll feel more confident, you'll feel happy, you'll feel more energized, you'll be able to do the things in daily life that you know you should do or should be able to do. But that can only happen if we improve your processing power, improve the energy levels in your body by improving your nervous system function. Because when your brain and body are connecting better, everything internally is more coherent, closest to your optimal 100% as possible. That's when you can experience health at its best. And that's when those types of stress aren't challenging you as much. I hope that you find this useful. If you know what stresses you're going through, and even despite changing those stresses, you're still experiencing health problems, or you know there's something different, please reach out. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation, answer your questions, and see how we can help. Links in the description below, and how to contact me, how to reach out, and see how you can get your health to the next level.